I always do a wee double take whenever I see an adventure game starring a detective, wondering if I'll be forced to write my own notes and make my own deductions, things that would really make me feel like a detective solving a case. Or am I just going to be playing as a guy in a long coat? Happily, today's title leans towards the former, although to be fair that's not the shortest coat ever. Tangle Tower comes to us from SFB Games. It's the third in the Detective Grimoire franchise that I just found out existed. It's available on Steam for Windows and macOS, as well as Apple Arcade and Switch. Here's the fairly impressive list of languages the game supports, and it starts like this. Detective Grimoire and his sidekick Sally Spears arrive at the titular Tangle Tower island. And boom, you're given control, just like that. Bit jarring at first, not a lot of setup here, but what soon transpires is the duo were hired to investigate the death of one Freya Fellow, who died while painting her mother's portrait. Given that she died of a stab wound, and this red patch on the painting was found to be blood, the prime suspect right now is a painting. It's gonna get weird, isn't it? So I might be stretching the definition of point and click here a little bit. The game is seen either from this first person perspective, a side-on view map, or a few hundred screens of case notes and dialogues. Honestly, I'm tempted to make these videos longer than 10 minutes just to make the entire series title completely meaningless, but that's the nonconformist in me talking. Anyway, this doesn't play quite like an adventure game. You'll wander the tower interviewing suspects, gathering clues, then interviewing said suspect about the clues you gathered. A quick look into your case notes lets you revisit all the clues you've got your hands on, complete with description, extra notes, and an utterly useless magnifying glass feature. I did wonder if this was for partially sighted people, but I don't know how they'd be able to read the text if their eyesight was this bad. I don't know for sure, however, so I'm going to tread lightly. And in any case, it doesn't detract from the experience. I simply got nothing out of it other than, hey, this was fun to move around for 5 seconds, so long as you know you don't need to use this to finish the game. Gathering clues is your usual pick up everything that isn't nailed down routine, but there's additional information you can get with the old social interaction thing I've heard so much about. These take the form of interviews, which have individual stages. From the off, you'll have access to the Encounter, Yourself, and Yesterday sections, the first of which plays when you first talk to the person, and the last of which has them describe their actions and whereabouts at the time of the moida. The plot progresses a bit when you gather enough information, and frankly that progress seems to be calculated arbitrarily, as if asking enough people about enough clues opens the next plot point rather than anything particularly relevant to the situation. Whatever causes it, Grimoire or Sally will have a brainwave which will open the suspicion option on a suspect. When you select that option, you need to make and justify an accusation, such as identifying a relevant clue or assembling a Mad Lib style sentence to say what happened. Which you can technically brute force anyway if you really try. Maybe this is more like a regular adventure game than I thought. Anyway, brute force aside, that's something I like about this game. They make you put a bit of effort in without the game becoming impossible or dull. Good thing considering you have to do at least one of these for every suspect. Doubly good thing since everyone on the island at the time of the murder is considered a suspect. Plus one painting. So the fact that this routine doesn't get old is a major positive. What might not be a positive is showing all the clues you find to every suspect, going back to that seemingly arbitrary progression I mentioned earlier. Thankfully, the edge is taken off by clearly marking what things you've already asked about and unique responses to those askings, all brought to life with good writing, fine voice acting, and a surprisingly high amount of animation. Something like lip syncing, for instance, is quite rare in an adventure game. Then again, there's a few titles out there which prove exactly why. Tangle Tower decided on full body animation, and for a game which is already quite heavily stylized, it works very well. The constant exaggerated movement fits the surreal cartoon tone and is used to inform the characters' personalities. Not to mention the animations are specific to the lines they're saying. You'll see a few repeats, sure, but it's not just the same old loop again and again. For a system which basically exists to deliver dialogue, it's really fun to watch, and it helped me connect to these characters. I wouldn't call them the best people to have ever lived or anything, but I had a lot of fun getting to know them. The tower, what the game was named after, houses two families, the fellows on one side and the pointers on the other, who each have a unique personality that I'm going to overly simplify for the purposes of spoilers and comedy. There's the silent one, Adventure Dad, Astronomy Dad, the Scientist one, the Goth one, the Bird one, the Gardener one, and the Dead one. Also, she was an artist. In addition to all the family peoples who don't get along with one another, quelle surprise, we also have another private detective named Hawkshaw. Intriguingly, she was hired for an entirely different investigation and so just happened to be around when someone did a murder. Add into that pool the people we're playing as, the instinctive, almost bumbling Grimoire, or the semi-serious, semi-hippie Sally, and you have one of the main reasons to play this game. I'm not saying these are incredibly deep, personable characters, by the way, I'm saying they're compelling to interact with. You know, I may have overblown the whole "it doesn't fit the traditional adventure game mold" thing earlier. They're spiritually similar, if nothing else. Wander about, talk to people, gather clues. Some of those clues are even hidden behind puzzles. There seems to be one in each room, actually. The two things that usually go wrong with this type of puzzle is when it's so convoluted or nonsensical that you start inventing new swear words to describe it, or that it doesn't fit in with the rest of the story and universe. Given that we're on an island exploring a mansion with two massive unsupported towers, I feel like the latter doesn't apply. As for the former, I really liked these puzzles. Even with the ones I didn't get right away, the game provides you with a little hint every time you click the solve button. These do what I always hope from an abstract adventure game puzzle. Perfectly solvable, but tricks your brain into thinking you done a smart and are therefore a big smarty pants with the smartest pants. It's good. I like that feeling. And as we're in the home stretch, I'll get the nitpick session out of the way. The game doesn't have a Linux or Android port, for no particular reason I can discern. Especially weird when you consider that the game runs on the Unity engine, which I believe can export to both, and the fact that the previous games in this series had ports to those platforms. Also, and I realise this will bug virtually nobody else, these sliders are weird. You have to click and drag them. A single click won't do the job. They're labelled as nitpicks for a reason, okay? Don't look at me like that. Also, that's for toggling between windowed and full screen. Would not have guessed. Overall, Tangle Tower was a satisfying way to spend 6 hours of my life, and certainly not something I regret spending $20 on. Heading towards the high end of adventure game prices, sure, and it's not the longest game in the world, but for me, it's all there on the page, screen. It's on screen. That phrase really doesn't work here, but hopefully you get what I mean. You'll find out where the money went. It's on screen. It's there. Anyway, if you're not into the quirky nature of these characters, or you're allergic to the art style or whatever, then I don't know that anything else will tip it back over towards giving it a go for yourself. For me, it was great. The right levels of humour, puzzle difficulty, quirky characters in one package that kept me awake 2 hours past my bedtime to see the ending. So, yes, I enjoyed it. All of which leaves us with one burning question, one last conundrum before we can wrap this mystery up for good and go on with our lives in peace. Where the hell is the exit button? Hey, me again. Thanks for watching to the end. If you like what I'm doing here, there's the like button and the subscribe button for finding out when I'm doing more of these. There's also the dislike button in that general vicinity, up to you. And if you really like what I'm doing here and can afford it, I do have a Patreon, which is linked in the description below. So anyway, thanks again, and I shall see you again soon.